Here on Jersey Magazine, once again, we welcome in Mike Ham from Greetings from the Garden State. And Mike, before we get to our topic that we're going to discuss this week, I need the status of the two dogs. First, do you still have the second dog
We
that you
still
were
have the second
fostering?
dog. Yes, we sure do. We've been calling him Yogi. I think I said that the last time that
Yes.
that that I was on. He is starting to fill out a little bit. His house training has gone exceptionally well. He's a very good boy still, and we're still looking for a good home from him. We have some interest in all that, but definitely something that we are looking to make sure that he finds a good home. And we definitely don't want to keep a second dog. We just keep telling ourselves that. And
You
then
keep telling
Dawkins.
yourself that, Mike.
Yeah, I'll
Uh-huh.
try. I'll do my best. Like I told you, I think every other night, not every other night that I have a couple drinks, but like any night that I do have a couple drinks, by the end of the night, I'm like, maybe we should keep this dog. Like what's the worst that could happen? But um, if he were to stay this size, I think that we would be more inclined to keep him. But he's going to be like 40 to 50 pounds, and just like with our current life situation, it probably won't work out that way. But obviously we'll find a way to make it work once we fail at this fostering thing. But yeah, check him out. You could always DM me, email me, Mike at greetingsfromthegarden.com to learn more about Yogi. I'll tell you everything you need to know. If you want to meet him, you can meet him, and then I'll show you where to go to put in an adoption application.
All right. Good luck to Yogi. I
Thank you.
hope.
Good luck, Yogi. He's nice. He's doing all kinds of stuff over there.
In the meantime, we have an update on some of the bands that you've been talking about with us in the past. What do you have for us?
Yeah, this actually been like a really interesting stretch of new music, new bands for a lot of people that we either do a lot of stuff with. We've had all of them on the podcast in some capacity. Some of them have played Jersey Fest shows with us. So the first song that came out of this crew that we're about to talk about is "Don't You Dare," a new single from Connor Bracken and the Mother Leeds band. Um, it's awesome. I mean, it's definitely like they've been releasing some new music here and there, like some singles over the last year or so. But this one certainly stands out as my favorite. Like I really like a lot of the Mother Leeds band's like earlier music. It's just like a more like upbeat, more like, in your face. And this "Don't You Dare" song really kind of like taps into that. And I thought it was great. And I think you liked it as well, right?
Yeah, of all the stuff that I've heard from the band, this I think is the most commercial, if you will, and I don't mean that in a derogatory
Sure.
way, but it's really accessible to use a radio term the way we talk about it. But yeah, I think
Yeah.
it definitely shows a growth with the band, and in my opinion, I think it's the best thing they've done so far.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I mean, like I said, I like some of their older stuff. Their newer stuff is good. Like I'm not saying anything bad about it, but this is definitely like this one stands out as, a really great next step for Connor and the band and all that. And speaking of good next steps, the other one that came out on the 4th of July, The American Dream from the Kings of Jersey Swamp Rock, Reese Van Riper, is in my opinion, the best work that they've put out in I don't know how many songs they have out right now, but they have a considerable amount of songs out at this point. I think since I've known Reese personally for the last 2 years, they put out Sinners, Saints, and Psychopaths, three different albums, and then this new EP called The American Dream. The American Dream, as the song "The American Dream" is, I think their best like pure rock and roll song. Like it's great. They kind of like tap into some slower stuff as well. I liked Reese's slower stuff, but it was always very like, we're kind of like in the swamp, we're being weird and all that. And this is just kind of like tapping into just more of like the band's. It's like again like a little bit more accessible to people and a little bit more like something that you can really get behind. I thought the new EP was great. And then finally, Nosebleed from the Hard Maybes. So the Hard Maybes played. Reese played the first ever Jersey Fest at White Eagle Hall. The Hard Maybes played the second ever Jersey Fest at the Wonder Bar in Asbury Park. Their new song "Nosebleed" I think is arguably the best next step out of all these bands that we're talking about. Like Connor's band and Reese's band, they're more established. They put out a lot of music. The Hard Maybes maybe have like 6 or 7 songs out that you could stream in different places. Um, but this new one, Nosebleed, I think is like a great indicator of like a next step with that band. And we saw them play live last Monday at Happy Mondays at the Wonder Bar in Asbury Park. We just knew that they were playing, plus a new band that was getting debuted that night by Renee Maskin, and it was awesome. Like you could tell, like the band is really starting to kind of take shape. The act is getting tighter, and they're really trying to like push the boundaries of what they've been doing so far, which is just what you like to see. I think it's been great to kind of follow along and know what the bands, who the bands are, and know them personally, and see kind of like what their evolution is all about.
As you're talking to me about that and the evolution of a band and the way that they continue to develop, I think of the band Shinedown, which of course has had an immense amount of success. But you go back to some of their early records, and from album to album to album, you can definitely hear a maturation in the lyrics. The songwriting improves, all of that. It's really cool when you get a chance to catch a band early and
Yeah.
watch them as their career develops.
Yeah, the development is really cool because like you get to see like what's like we talked about this a lot on this segment of Jersey Magazine, just kind of like the evolution of a band and like what like the Jersey sound is, and bands trying to like discover like their place in this mess of music and commercialness and all this stuff that we're talking about. And I think like it's hard, like we were talking off mic about, bands releasing their second album, which is always a big step. But then at the same time, like being an indie artist, you do have a little bit more leeway. But in terms of what you can do, there's obviously, a host of different challenges that they face. And I think sometimes like direction could be one of those. Because you may think this is the path you want to go, but you're not even really aware of all the other paths that exist. But it's nice to see like bands that we have, me personally and people that I work with have like kind of a like we have an interest in what they do because they're friends of ours. We know them. We like hang out with them in certain things. Like there was a bunch of other artists there that night, just in the crowd, like Mike from Yawn Mower, Brian Erickson from the Extensions, like a bunch of other artists that were just there just to watch this show on Monday, and we were just like hanging out, talking, having a beer, and just seeing where they're at as well. So yeah, watching that evolution is something that is really cool to see.
And Renee Maskin has something new as well, going in a slightly different direction.
Yeah, Renee Maskin. I'm a really big fan of Renee's, but I'll say it. Her acoustic stuff, it's slower. She's extremely, extremely talented, just from a musical standpoint and a songwriting standpoint as well. But she was in a band that I think the band is still active called Lowlight. And I really liked Lowlight. I liked the vibe. I liked the songs. I liked the music. I liked the lyrics. And I was always hoping that at some point Renee would kind of like take her own step back towards like a full band and electric sound. So like Chris and I, my buddy Chris and I went down just to see, well, not just to see, but we went down specifically to see Renee's new band, and I'm really excited about it. It was their first set they've ever played live. You wouldn't know it.
No.
They was really impressive. Danny Clinch got on stage with them and was playing the harmonica. Like they didn't practice that at all. They just like did it, which I think just goes to show like how talented they are. And just from a stage, like a stance of like stage presence and musicality and like composition and all these things, like you could tell like once they put out their first stuff to stream, it's gonna be major, and we can't wait to do some stuff with them now, honestly. So
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that because I saw a couple of clips and I guess Danny was on stage because it did have a harmonica player on it. I'm
yep,
thinking, there's something here. This is
yeah,
really good.
yeah, it really is, and like that's why it's just something like people just finding their lanes and like the evolution of the art, and I think like Renee's stuff when I first found Renee's music online. I actually had her on the podcast a while back, like way before you and I ever started doing our stuff. And watching the stuff that she's put out again, like really like it. We featured a lot of the songs that she's put out recently, but like I don't know, I'm a upbeat, positive guy. Like I need some energy in my life sometimes, and I'm really excited to see what they're able to put out in terms of all this new stuff that they have, and it's really exciting to see, and it's just all part of that evolution.
And you can check out all things New Jersey with Mike Ham at greetingsfromthegarden state.com. Mike, we'll talk again next week. I want a yogi update too.
I will let you know.